I'm Lutza, and I'm from Minneapolis, and I am one of the RNC conspiracy defendants, and I'll tell you a little bit about my case in a minute. But I first want to talk about some other cases that I have some relationship to in my work as well. Right now across the country, there are over 24 anarchists who are either in prison serving prison sentences or facing serious prison sentences for their political work. And of course, that's only, that's part of the ongoing criminalization of dissent. The movie was awesome. Fast forward to my own case, I was involved in a group called the RNC Welcoming Committee, along with a few other people in the room right now, in St. Paul. The RNC was coming to St. Paul in 2008, and we started organizing in late 2006. And we were organizing as anarchists, but we were organizing across ideological lines with all sorts of groups, both locally and across the country, and that really was a threat to law enforcement. And we were investigated by more law enforcement agencies than I can name, and we are now being prosecuted for that. 8 of us are being prosecuted for that work. We're being charged with conspiracy to commit riot and conspiracy to commit criminal damage to property. When we go to trial at the end of October, it will have been more than 4 years since we started our work around the RNC to the point of the trial. And it's been a difficult process for us, but I think that we've been incredibly fortunate in having laid groundwork in the Twin Cities so that we have really immense and really strong support across ideological lines. And it's meant that we've also had the ability to use our case as a way to educate people about the fact that what's happening to us happens all the time, not just to activists, but to everybody. And we're being targeted for what we did, but the real targets are everybody else. This is a warning, as is I think every political prosecution, a warning that you don't dare involve yourself in any sort of worthwhile organizing because you could be next.
My name is Fahad Ahmed. I was an organizer with Drum, Daisy's Rising Up and Moving in New York for about 8 or 9 years. I am here representing Drum as well as the Arab and Muslim Ethnicities and Diasporas Initiative at San Francisco State University to really sort of talk about the policing and criminalization of Muslim communities post 9/11. I just kind of want to briefly mention some of the ways that in which the community has been targeted, and then sort of, like the other speakers, talk a little bit about the politics behind it. The actual targeting of Muslim communities doesn't, I'm going to use Muslim a lot because that's sort of what I'm speaking on, but it includes Arab and South Asian. The targeting doesn't start only at 9/11. There were cases going on beforehand. One of the most harshly used things was the secret evidence law, which is essentially there is evidence against you. You will not be told what the evidence is. Your lawyer may not be told the evidence, what the evidence against you is. Or if the lawyer is told, then the lawyer cannot tell you what the evidence is. This was used particularly in conjunction with immigration laws. One of the prominent cases was the LA 8 case. A bunch of Palestinian activists, pro-Palestinian activists, who were targeted, and essentially their case lasted about 14 or 15 years, I believe, and just concluded a handful of years ago. But 9/11 hits, and there's a massive sweep of Arab, Muslim, and South Asian people, as well as people that may look like that. So it includes Panamanians and Dominicans as well. In the New York and New Jersey area, over 1,200 people are picked up under the intensive purpose of being associated with terrorism. Out of those 1,200 people, a total of 0 are found to have any connections. But these people spent anywhere from 6 months to 1.5 years in prison, the first 3 to 4 months without any communication with their lawyers or with their families. These people were picked up off the streets, out of their homes, out of their jobs, and disappeared, just disappeared. And families would call us saying, I haven't heard from my father for 3 or 4 days. We don't know where he is. And just taken to prisons in New Jersey, held incommunicado, until organizations like Drum started going in, trying to organize with these folks, trying to get information out, trying to bring information in, and taking this to the press. 9/11, this happens, again, zero convictions related to terrorism. The few convictions they have are related to credit card fraud, identity theft, stuff like that. Then, because they produce nothing, they say, okay, well, now we need to register all these people. So they start the special registrations program, total of 28 or 29 countries, Muslim majority countries, plus North Korea, throwing in for diversity. Muslim men between the ages of 16 and 45 are required to register with the U.S. government if they are not citizens. Is all of these things they provide, to think about the function that it serves. First and foremost, it serves to legitimize the wars and the proxy wars going on in the Arab, Muslim, and South Asian worlds, whether it's in Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine, or by proxy in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, and other places across the Muslim world. Secondly, what it does, it seeks to silence the very same communities that would be the most likely to speak out against these wars. Essentially drives them to be quiet, to remain quiet, not come out, not protest, not resist. Somebody earlier had said, essentially to kill resistance. Thirdly, one of the important things we've seen is that there's actually a lot of money involved. Sort of with the privatization of national security, there are, the NYPD has like a $300 million budget, has been allocated $300 million over the years for this sort of domestic counterterrorism stuff. Most of that goes to contractors doing technology stuff, private agents, stuff like that. And I believe for the Los Angeles Police Department it was $120 million over these years. So lots of money is being made, lots of contracts being made, a lot of money being exchanging and exchanging hands. Particular folks that have been targeted. Okay. One particular, so one important comparison I want to make between Cointelpro then and now. One is that Cointelpro then was covert. Until, as it was mentioned, 1975, people bust in it and break these records out. Now this is very overt. The New York Times front page has articles talking about that they are using these tactics, and it is not only legal, but it is also socially acceptable. That people think that, oh, these people are enough of a problem that these tactics are acceptable and socially acceptable. The second big difference is then it targeted mostly politicized movements. And unfortunately, in my opinion, with the Muslim communities, it actually just targeted the larger community that really doesn't have much of a political movement going on. I'm not saying that that's in all the cases. There are particular imams, particular cases that have been targeted specifically for their activism. Very more specifically, particularly stuff related to Palestine issues as well. Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H. Rap Brown, has been targeted for his work in the local Atlanta community. The Imam Luqman here in Detroit was sort of targeted, partially for his local work here, but partially as a way to win points in this counterterrorism kind of stuff. Lawyers, they have even targeted lawyers who have gone out to support Muslim individuals. The case of Lynn Stewart was targeted for defending the Sheikh Omar, an Egyptian sheikh who is serving a sentence right now. Given the intersection of a lot of these cases with issues related to Palestine, we have to recognize the role of Zionism, their organizations and their spokespersons within this country in pushing forward a lot of this Islamophobia and anti-Arab sentiment, whether that's the ADL or folks like Daniel Pipes, Martin Kramer, and other individuals as well, who constantly seek to denigrate Muslim individuals, organizations, and communities.
What that also says is that it is not behavior, just like with Cointelpro, just like with all of these convictions, just like with all of these political prisoners cases, it is not actions that are the issue. It is the ideology, it is the identity, it is the representation of potential or vision for change that is what is being quashed here, right? That's what the Church Committee, right, the U.S. Senate, said about the Cointelpro operations. That at that point they were talking about the FBI, but it ranges over all those organizations, right? They said that the purpose of these operations is to try to maintain the status quo, right? And any kind of thinking that disrupts that, right, is what the FBI has chosen to target. And as was pointed out, that is what has become normalized recently. What was done in those days covertly is not exactly the right word because everybody could see it happening, but nonetheless unacknowledged and clearly illegal, right? Has now they're working to normalize it in every possible way, like with the passage of the Patriot Act and all these state Patriot Acts, et cetera, et cetera.